What's up, guys? I'm here with Mark Dowdle. You know it's serious when I got the speed suit on. I'm running my first ever beer mile. Mark is something of an expert at the beer mile. It's my first one, so we're going to see how it goes. But before we did this today, we did a leg day, Mark and I. I got to learn all about him, his ultramarathon success, his beer mile expertise, all that good stuff. So keep watching to learn more about Mark. If you want to see how this beer mile goes down, see if I throw up or not, head on over to Mark's channel when you're done.
Let's do it. I'm 28. I graduated St. Thomas in 2019, and I was playing football and lacrosse there. So my first real introduction to running was coming back from a 3-day weekend in Nashville with the lacrosse team. We'd lost 2 out of the 3 games. For whatever reason, my older brother sent me the Joe Rogan, David Goggins podcast of him talking about how he's pissing blood and then going to run, 30 more miles. And it just started to open up my YouTube algorithm to like ultra running documentaries and the Iron Cowboy and all these insane athletes. And we landed at 3 a.m. through this crazy snowstorm. The first thing I did was I went out and run. And that whole spring, I was like, I'm gonna be the next David Goggins. And then I quickly realized I'm not that type of dude.
I feel like you've become that kind of dude though. Like some of the challenges and stuff you've done, like for the audience, like to go from strength athlete football player to running like 140-mile ultras, like tell us some of the ultras that you've done.
Yeah, I had all these races lined up for the spring of 2020, and then COVID hit, and instead of going out to do a race, I hopped on and did Calendar Club for the first time, which is running the number of miles equal to the day of the month. So the 20th today, you'd run 20 miles. Tomorrow, you'd run 21, 22. And
that last week of the month is like...
It's like a marathon a day for 7 days, depending on the month. But I remember that being so hard. And my ankle was completely blown up at day like 24, and I just kept running through it. By day 28, it was like completely fixed, and I was like, this is awesome.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Back in 2021, ran from Springfield, Illinois, back here to St. Paul. It's 500 miles in 9 days, and it was part of a charity run series that I had helped start for pancreatic cancer. And then like more recently, did Arrowhead 135 this winter, which is 135 miles in northern Minnesota in the middle of winter, pulling nothing but a sled and a bunch of required gear that you need to take with you.
Dude, those races are badass, and not for the reason that I think a lot of people would think they are, because I did Tuscobia.
Okay.
And I got to they said it's like an 80 miler, but I was at like 75 on my watch, and then someone at like a checkpoint said you had 20 to go, and I was like, I thought I was almost done, and honestly, like I was so bored and mentally worn out from running in a straight line in the dark, seeing no one. I was just done mentally. I'm like, my legs feel pretty good, but they had a van at the checkpoint, and I'm like, get me out. Like, I'm just so over it, So I dropped it, like whatever mile that was. But those races are just a mind fuck in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, how was that your experience, or was it more just the physicality of it? Like, tell me about it.
Arrowhead was the most humbling experience I have had in running. Part of why it was so humbling was because I had gone into it with some arrogance. I remember going into it thinking that I had won this last person standing race in 2024. I ended up doing a full year of the Calendar Club Challenge. And so like I'd done all of these things, and I felt like I had so much confidence that, I was gonna go out and break the course record for this Arrowhead race, which I had no business thinking. And when I got 40 miles in, I was set on quitting. I had called my fiance. She was my girlfriend at the time, but I called her up. I was like, Lucy, I am done. I'm not having fun anymore. This is way harder than I expected. I just want to be back in the hotel, drinking a beer, watching a movie, and being done. And she told me I can't. She's like, you can't quit.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, you can't, like, we've come all this way, you're not quitting. So I, continued on because I didn't have a choice. But also in that moment, like, she infused this other voice in my head that I could not find on my own. It wasn't like, oh, suddenly everything was fixed. I'm good. It was like I was watching this image I had built up in my head just crumble. Like, I was not who I thought I was.
Yeah.
And I think that's what keeps me going back to these races is you go through this really long process of like leading up to the race, having this belief that you can accomplish it, maybe having this belief that you can set a course record, and then going out and testing to see if that is reality or if that's just your ego trying to boost your self-image, and then getting in it and it's like the whole race I'm like, you are such a loser, you suck at this.
Yeah.
And then there's this other voice that's like, okay, that belief, that those thoughts, those feelings are attacking you, but you're still out here doing it. You're still moving forward. And I love that process. It's horrible in the moment, but I really love that process. And then getting to the finish line and being like, all right, we actually did it. I wasn't bored out there at all. I was going through hell out there, trying to figure out who I was, trying to figure out if I was even like, should I even continue running? Like, should I continue trying to make this my profession? Because this is not how a professional should be talking to himself right now or having this belief about himself right now. But thinking about it more, it's like, no, the professionals are the ones that can have those thoughts and not allow it to break them.
Exactly. That's such a misconception. People think once you hit a certain fitness level or the people at the top like don't doubt themselves or anything, but it's just like they do and they keep going anyway.
Yes. That's what I brought with me into this most recent last person standing race is you can't eliminate doubt. It's not possible. If you're continuing to push the boundaries of what you're doing, you will not eliminate doubt. What happened to me in Arrowhead is I allowed it to attach itself to my identity. I allowed it to like attach itself to my character. And at Walsall, when it came up, it was a thought. I recognized it as a thought, but it wasn't, I'm tired, I'm not doing good enough, therefore I'm not good enough. I cut it off there. I was like, yeah, I'm tired. I feel like I should not be tired at this point, but I'm still here, I'm still doing it, and I can still write the story that I want to write.
If you sign up for this big race, now you're doing like a big 250 next year, hypothetically, you DNF, how do you talk to yourself after?
This last person standing race in Wisconsin, that was my 4th time at that race. It's my 2nd time winning, but the first 2 times, I didn't make it to 24 hours. And like I stopped when it got difficult and when it got painful. And so I guess through the process of doing these races or these challenges, you sort of get to a point where you learn your honesty level. And like if you're stopping because you want an excuse to get out of the situation, or you're in really bad shape and you actually need to stop. And I think doing those things over and over again, I've learned if I'm trying to make the excuse or I'm actually hurt or I actually need to stop. So when I reach that threshold of trying to quit, it's pretty easy for me to understand if I'm trying to justify or make excuses or lie to myself because I've done it so many times in the past and I've come out the other side of quitting before I'm actually done, and I know what it feels like to regret that. I'm like, what motivated you to sign up for Discobia that then you just got bored and quit? To me, that I'm like trying to make sense of that in my head.
It was dumb. I probably should have kept going. But yeah, like a lot of it's just like the fun of it, and also the feeling afterwards, not of accomplishment per se, but I find like ultras to be very like grounding, almost spiritual experience.
Yeah.
Whereas in like the days and weeks and months that follow, you just feel like refreshed and renewed in some odd way. And to me, there's like a certain level of challenge I need to get to. And like if I can reach a certain point of suffering or a certain point of discomfort and push through it, DNF or not, medal or not, win or not, it's like that feeling is still there.
Yeah.
And so like going out running 70 miles in 12 hours in the snow, like I'm like, I feel pretty good. Like I ran 40 miles around the lake in front of my apartment, but like that was a DNF in a sense because I could have run further. Why didn't I?
Yeah.
Like
I got you.
you run and you stop at a certain point that feels
like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an interesting, I haven't thought about that either. You technically, you can DNF every day because you're not doing
everything you could, you know? There's races that I finished that I had the same sort of feeling of having DNF'd because I knew that I didn't do what I could have done. There's like, why didn't I push harder here? That kind of stuff. And then there's been like some of my proudest race moments haven't been the sexiest sounding big ultras. It'll be like a half marathon trail race or something. I'm like super proud of it because I'm like, I went hard. Like I redlined the whole time. I wanted to back off at this moment and I didn't, and I surged, and it's like, sometimes that's super satisfying too. But like on paper, people are like, oh cool, you ran a half marathon, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I really don't like when people say, when they're talking about their running experience, and maybe a marathon is their really hard thing, and they talk about how it's like nothing in comparison to what you're doing, but like, and it's like, oh, that's not the point. Like my hard is Cocodona 250. Your hard might be this half marathon. I can tell you this, the last person standing race, 38 hours, 158 miles. To some, that sounds freaking crazy. But once you get in that world, that's really not that far.
Yeah.
There's a guy that, the same weekend I did that, he did 116 loops, 116 hours. So it's like,
that's
I
crazy.
wish people would just recognize where they're at and be more proud of that. Like you don't have to downplay what you're doing because it's in comparison to what I'm doing or to what someone else is doing.
Even take training for a 1 mile. Like if you look at what it looks like to do your best at a 1 mile, the training is insanely hard.
Yeah.
Like look at world-class milers and the miles they're putting in, the hours, the time, like doing anything as well as you can do it is really, really hard. We just happen to like a certain flavor of hard.
It's peacocking. It's like the discomfort of doing a hard track workout compared to a 20 or 30 mile run is like ridiculous in comparison. I've found that mentally it is much more difficult to run faster on a track and have that discomfort come up, and you have to continue to keep the same pace or like continue to keep that. Whereas like ultra running, if you're 100 miles into a 200 mile race and you're uncomfortable, you can take a nap. You can walk it out. You can like your threshold, you can lower the intensity level.
Yeah.
But in like a 1 mile, you got to keep it going.
Every Thursday has been 2 mile repeats for me. It is the hardest day of my week.
Oh God.
Way harder than the long run, dude.
So you're running 2 miles hard around a track?
I do it on the tread.
Oh, on the tread.
Do a mile.
Treadmill guy, huh?
The good and bad thing about the treadmill is you just set the pace,
Yeah.
what you want it to be. It just becomes a matter of, are you gonna stay on the belt or get off? I like that kind of black and white, yes or no.
Yeah. This is my thing with the treadmill is like, yes, the decision, you could always like step off, but to a certain extent, you're not thinking as much about the pace, you're thinking about keeping your legs up and moving.
Yeah. I think there's more mental effort with like staying on pace outdoors, whereas on the tread, you can just take that mental effort that you would have been spending staying on pace and use it to just going that extra bit faster. So
Yeah.
like you can still do 10 out of 10 one way or the other. It's
Yeah.
just like, where is that energy being directed? I personally find it is a little bit easier with short workouts. Faster paces, short workouts, I can do a little bit better on the tread. Whereas the longer you're on it, one, the monotony gets to you a little bit more. Two, overheating. Like there's no air circulation and that kind of thing. So even in that like 2 mile session, I get so hot, like absolutely drenched in sweat, even by the halfway point. Compared to even on a fairly warm day, like running outside, just you get the breeze in your face and that kind of stuff. So I find the long tread sessions get to be a real grind in the back half. I think people would overthink it, like running's running, like
Yeah.
just work hard and it's gonna be all right.
Like, dude, honestly, I don't care if you're running outside, if you're running on a treadmill, but choose to run instead of not to run.
In the winter for me too, sometimes, like, yes, you could always wake up earlier, you can always make the argument, but it's like, I wake up, I got an hour, do I want to spend half of that like getting all my shit together?
Right.
And then, you know, versus like, I'm just gonna hop on the tread, get it done, and go. It can be more time efficient. But I don't know, on both sides, people are like, oh, I could never run the treadmill, it's so boring. I'm like, is it easier or is it harder? Like, I don't know. Depends on the context, I guess.
Yeah.
This is probably my top set. I don't know how you're doing. We haven't even talked about what we're really doing.
I just been throwing weight on.
I am curious more about your strength stuff because, like, I've seen you lift really heavy with Yoakum. Shout out Austin.
Shout out Yoakum.
Definitely lifting heavier than most ultra runners.
Yeah.
Is that specifically for like the training of ultra running, or like you just like lifting and want to do it all?
A little bit of the second piece. So obviously was lifting a ton of weights in college. And then when I started running after I graduated, I lifted no weights for like 2 years. Was putting up 100-mile weeks. Never got injured, but I was super skinny and just didn't feel great.
Yeah.
And then I got back lifting again, and I've been doing that for the last 3-4 years. And I've felt better than I've ever felt. And I also think there's something to being able to, like, running is just, it's just this, you know? And when we're in there playing ultimate frisbee and you're cutting around, I'm working on different movements and different muscles that I wouldn't be doing if I wasn't in there. And you think about Cocodona, or think about a race that's upcoming, that you're on a trail, like I'm gonna be jumping on rocks and roots and trying to dodge things, and being able to have those movement patterns, I think, is a huge benefit. And it just, you know, I feel better, I feel stronger. But my approach to lifting is I go in and I do what I'm told. I'm not like the sciencey guy. I wouldn't ever, like, there's no optimizing the lifts or the workouts for running specific. It's just, I trust Yoakum. I've not got injured. I've been winning races. So I'm just gonna let the professional do his thing.
I might get some backlash for this, but I feel like a lot of running specific strength programs are kind of, scam is a harsh word, but like it is also kind of scammy, because like good strength training doesn't change that much regardless of what you're training for.
Right.
Like powerlifting, bodybuilding, running, lacrosse, football, like fundamentals of how you get strong don't change all that much.
Yeah.
And I think people try to dial up the specificity aspect too much just to sell you on something and be like, you're gonna be the best runner ever if you do this like weird running specific drill. And it's really easy to convince people that like you need that. But then when you look at like, is that actually adhering to basic S&C principles of like how to deliver a stimulus to tissue, it gets kind of gimmicky real quick. There's certain things that I think people should focus on, like train the right muscle groups. You probably do want to have some single leg strength just so you're getting into that like glute med piriformis, like side of your hip a little bit, but also like seeing people do their single leg deadlifts on a Bosu ball with like no weight because it's running specific. I'm like, I don't think you're on it. So I think your approach of like, one, just listen to an actual strength expert like Yoakum, because he's great. But two, just like get strong, like actually get strong, lift with people who want to get strong. To me, what makes a program truly running specific is just like sport specific load management. Just don't do so much volume that you can't recover and handle your runs. That kind of stuff makes a lot more sense. So I think you're totally on point, and obviously you're holding together pretty well because you've made it through how many calendar clubs now?
18.
Jeez. Those calendar clubs are nuts. Like, if you're watching this, just imagine running one day on the first of the month, 2 miles on the second day of the month, all the way to like 25, 26, 27, 28.
Yeah.
Even in February, that's hard.
Well, February, the year I did it, well, I did it both Februarys, this most recent one and the one before. But I had enough people tell me that I was avoiding the treadmill, so 2 Februarys ago, I did a full month of calendar club outside and a full month of calendar club on the treadmill.
That's awesome.
So I was just like, fuck you guys.
Any unique like experiences or lessons from that, or it was like it's running and it was not a big deal?
I gotta be careful about having a beer or two with some buddies and just doing stuff because I think they find like the weekend before I was grabbing beers. It was my birthday, and I was, my friends were there. I had a couple beers. I'm like, I'm thinking about doing this in February, and they laughed about it, and I was like, all right,
yeah,
I'm gonna do it now. So I think that's one thing, because it was hell. That last week was like it was like 210 miles, and I was sleeping in the Planet Fitness at some points.
Will you do calendar club again, or are you done with that?
No, honestly, it's become my training. I used to do this thing, and I resonated with, I think you were talking about it with Tim Riley, about how you used to if it was October, you knew what you were doing 6 months later.
Yeah.
Like spreadsheets, everything was dialed. That was how I started in running, is like I put together my training plan for the next year, and I knew what I was running every day for the next year. And it just I wasn't able to hold myself accountable to it being a Saturday at a 20-mile run, and some buddies wanted to go to the lake. I'd do a 12-mile run instead, and I would say, yeah, I'll do the remaining 8 the next day. Too many times I wouldn't do those 8 the next day. And so calendar club gave me a reason and like a structure that I couldn't dip out of. And I just fell in love with that. I loved the rhythm of it. I loved the slow build to like a really long week, because I think that's important too, of like, how can I run, 100, 200 mile weeks and still, get all these other things that I need to get done in a day as well. And I loved that aspect of running on tired legs, running when I was tired because I wasn't getting sleep because I was still waking up to go lift. And so it just became like easy for me in the same way that I like going to Yoakum, because I can just shut off that part of my brain where I know that I'm getting the work in and it's gonna work for me. Same thing was with Calendar Club, where I no longer had to put mental energy into like thinking about how many miles I was gonna run today or next week. I just knew. It was already set in stone.
I have a few like rapid fire questions about Calendar Club.
Okay.
I think it's a fascinating approach to training. One, because on paper, I could see why someone would say that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
But I know that it works. Like I know that it's not as dumb as it might sound to some people.
Well, I'm probably the only runner that uses Calendar Club so it is that dumb.
Yeah. I think it's more feasible than people might give it credit for.
Yeah.
But
yes, 100%.
In terms of like average weekly mileage, it's pretty typical as far as ultra training goes. It's just really backloaded and then like kind of a built-in deload, so very cyclical. But like total training volume, it's actually kind of reasonable, just kind of a big week at the end. But I'm curious, one, do you stick to the mileage exactly every day, or are there days where you're like, early in the month, for example, do you run more than 2 miles in the second ever, or are you like 2 done, that's it?
2 done. There's been some days where early in the month, it's like a 2 mile day and I end up running 5, but very rarely. I mean, by the beginning of the month, I'm like, I just did 7 hours of running for 7 days in a row. I'm good on this. I'm good on this.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a time for me to really push out a lot of content because I have more time to do it, spend more time with my fiance because I'm spending a lot of time running and working. And so it's kind of making up for other areas during that time.
So within those miles, do you have like workouts, or is it all just do the distance and that's it, like very distance focused? Do you have any speed work built into it? That kind of stuff? Or when you're doing a calendar club month, is it just do the miles?
Yeah, it is just do the miles. I've only just started getting into speed work as I prepare for beer mile stuff. But before that, it has been all just get out the door and run 10 miles and run 10 miles back for a 20-mile day. And I've been learning more of, like, now we're going to Highland Hill and we'll do 15 miles with 3,000 feet of elevation gain. And that has felt cool and fun and different than something I'm used to. But during calendar club, it was a lot of just getting time on feet and getting out the door to do the distance.
Out of the 12 months this year, how many will be calendar club versus something else?
That's a good question. July, I'm gonna kick back up with calendar club. I want to do a month of calendar club where it's every mile is at Highland Hill. So just a full month of calendar club on the hill. That would be wicked. Probably August and September. And those will probably be the 3 months this year that I'll get back on calendar club. And then like October, I'm getting married. November, I'm doing another last person standing race. And maybe December, I'll go back to calendar club as well.
Yeah.
So maybe 3 to 4 months this year will be that.
Well, you got me inspired. I kind of want to try one of these.
Dude.
Maybe, I think August might work for me. I'll hit you up. Maybe I do calendar club August with you for a little challenge.
That would be a lot of fun. So I got into beer mile through calendar club by just getting done with a full month and a hectic last week, and wanted something fun to celebrate the first day and kind of put behind a month and start a new month. So I started doing beer mile, started recognizing that I was pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. And there was this element of doing it with friends and like hunting them down around the track, like that, like chase mentality. And so I just started doing it every month. And then one random afternoon, I was doing it, or was about to, and a women's soccer player was there. She didn't want to drink, so I'm like, all right, why don't you do a normal mile and I'll do a beer mile and I'll race you. We'll see who wins. And that started the Beat My Beer Mile series, where I just started racing college athletes to see if they could run a faster mile than my beer mile.
What's your fastest beer mile?
5:51:59. I ran from Chicago to Windsor, Ontario. It took me 2 weeks. And in Windsor was the Beer Mile World Classic. And there's guys there, like the fastest dude there, Corey Bellamore. He's got the world record in beer mile at 4:28.
That's crazy.
It's nuts.
8 to 12 seconds per beer? Or...
Yeah, typically. The first beer is like 7 seconds, and then every beer after that's like 9 seconds. Yeah. 12 seconds. Yeah, have you done beer mile before, or will Thursday be your first one?
This is going to be the first one. So it's something about it doesn't matter if you're tired. Like, being tired is not a valid excuse for not doing the workout or doing the training. Have you come by that philosophy naturally, or is that something you had to like work into to understand?
I think I derived a lot from the last person standing stuff. Like the cool thing about last person standing is it is methodical. It's the same thing over and over and over again. So you have a different experience on the same course pretty much every time. And something that I learned that I found a lot of success in is like knowing where I needed to be at what point during the loop. So top of the hill at 18 to 20, into the forest to make the last little turns at 40 minutes. What I learned is like, no matter how I felt, if I felt like the freshest I've ever been at the top of the hill, or if I felt the worst I've ever been, if I was at the top of the hill at 20, it did not matter how I felt in that moment. Because our emotions change so quickly. Our thoughts about ourselves change so quickly. And they can work for us, and they can work against us. And so through that experience, I was like, okay, why am I putting so much weight and energy into how I feel? Whether I feel great or not, like waking up and doing the work is what allows you to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. And so I think through Calendar Club, doing a full year of like, well, this is what I'm doing today. It doesn't matter if I have a wedding, if I feel like doing it, like doing it regardless. And then translating that into these backyard styles where you don't know the end of it. You can't attach any like, oh, just get to the finish line. You know, it's coming in, 20 miles or whatever. Like those two experiences taught me that like your actions are the thing that matter more than anything else, because they're the only thing that provide the evidence to combat the ever-changing emotional state, the ever-changing mental state. And so I've developed that over the last year, and I think the beginning of that really was that full year Calendar Club.
In lifting, like in the gym, you can have a taste of that experience where like you don't feel great getting into it, but you warm up and you're like, actually have a good day. But I don't think that things can change as much over the course of a 60 to 90 minute lift as they can over the course of a 12 plus, 24 hour plus run. I've had like, not literally because it wouldn't make sense, but like gotten injured and recovered from an injury like all in the span of a race of like, you're running, you feel something, you're like, oh shit, like that's not good. And then you run on it for 20 miles and then you're like, it doesn't hurt anymore. Yeah. Super weird. Just like the peaks and valleys you can go through in an ultra is just like unreal. Yeah. So yeah, it definitely teaches you that lesson of like when those things pop up and you're like, oh, this is it. My knee's starting to hurt. Like you have no idea how you're going to feel in 3 more hours. Yeah. It's nuts.
If you're hoping to overcome the obstacles of a difficult race, then you better learn to overcome at least a percentage of that in your training.
Dude, training should be hard. Like, yeah. I know it sounds obvious when you just say it out loud. It's like, well, no shit, training should be hard. But like, I don't know. I watch with like, even people training for a marathon, they'll like want to run X pace. Like they want to run a 7-minute pace for their marathon. And their long run is like just an easy 20 at like an 8:30 or 9. Yeah. And I'm like, that's a good workout, but that's not enough. Like, that is not hard enough training it's not for what you want to accomplish.
It's not gonna translate to your goal.
Yeah, there's a time and place for that workout, maybe further from your race, but like you gotta suffer a little bit. Yeah. To me, training is the hard part. Like obviously there's challenges in the race you got to overcome, but if you've trained properly for an event, the event shouldn't be the scariest day of your life. Right. You know what I mean? Right. This is my new favorite setup for split squats. I've never done it like this before, but figured we got the, I don't remember what they call this. If you're a strong man and you're watching this, I'm sorry, I don't know what you guys call your shit. I find myself cheating a little bit sometimes when I do split squats and lunges with the barbell, because I'll kind of shift back a little bit or kind of shift my hips back. But this forces you to be driving your weight forward a little bit.
If someone came to you and said they wanted to start running, what would your advice be?
I would ask them why I lean into that. What seems cool and exciting about running to you? Does the thought of being able to complete an ultra, is that super appealing to you? Versus being able to break 5 minutes in the mile or whatever time target you hit. I would definitely want to lean into whatever excites them about it. especially early on, like trying to force someone to do a bunch of workouts that they hate. So I think meeting people where they're at in terms of what's motivating to them is really important. That being said, I strongly encourage runners to set up what I call a multifaceted base of base fitness. People often think of it as just like long, slow running, like setting the base. But to me, it's a base of general athleticism. Do you have some baseline level of strength? Do you have some baseline level of speed? Do you have some baseline level of capacity to go for a while? Like, I want those general qualities to be somewhat reasonably developed. And I think if you have a little bit of all that, it's going to make it so much easier to go deeper into specificity down the line.
Yeah.
So, like, taking a new runner and being like, no, you don't need speed work. Like, we'll get to that in a few years. Like, to me, they're just going to get so much more out of it.
Yeah.
If you just, it doesn't have to be a ton. Just like do a little bit. And I think that goes for a lot of people, especially if you're starting later in life, or maybe you don't have as strong of an athletic background. Like you weren't just playing football a few years ago, for example. It's like you've been at a desk for 20 years. Like just get athletic, and that's going to make running so much easier too.
Cedric Thompson, who is a former NFL guy that I met here with Grace North, son of Colton, plays in Minneapolis. He used to say, because he's not a runner, he was always like, dude, it used to piss me off so much when people would ask you what shoes to get, and your answer to them would be like, it doesn't matter, just go freaking run. And like, the reason I answered that is because, well, that's the truth. It really doesn't matter what shoes you start out. I started with non-running shoes, just picked whatever I had in my closet and I started running. But he was like, yeah, but sometimes people don't even, maybe running isn't even what they're asking you about. Like, try and understand why they're asking you to begin with. Maybe they just follow you and they think what you're doing is cool and they see how much value you're getting out of running and they're looking for that in their own lives and they think it might be running, but it might not be. So I've learned a lot of that. It's like, and that was the first thing you said when I asked that. You're like, I'd first probably try and figure out why they want to run to begin with. Like, what are they attracted to? And I think that's definitely a more coach approach, or more of just like a meeting people where they're at type of approach.
On the topic of like getting caught up in the weeds, like what kind of shoes should I get, that kind of thing, or what supplements should I take? I have mixed feelings on the thing, because on the one hand, like the deeper you go into it, the longer you've been at it, the more you realize like, oh, this stuff doesn't really matter all that much, like whatever. But on the other side, like to me, whatever someone is interested in, I want to feed that. Like, so you're fired up about shoes, like cool. Like if getting a new pair of shoes is gonna like make you excited about running, then like fuck yeah, let's talk about shoes. Like I just want to fuel the passion and the interest too. So I think it's tempting when you're more advanced to be like, that doesn't fucking matter, just like just get out there. It's like yes, but like in the spirit of meeting people where they're at, sometimes just like feel their passion, answer their questions, and like I think sometimes learning what doesn't matter is like a necessary part of the process, and like you have to go through it. Like you have to get caught up in things that don't matter to realize that they don't matter. It's not enough for someone to just tell you. I think it's good to kind of guide people in that general direction, but there's so much just like necessary learning. And if I think that someone's interest in like a weed is like really detracting from the things that they really need to be focusing on, I'll tell them. But I also kind of want to feel it a little bit too, you know? It's like, it's kind of tricky.
I like what you said about like having them learn that lesson on their own, because then it'll stick more too.
You lead like a group run in the winter with like, you run and then get in like an ice bath in the river and stuff like that. And I think you got some other stuff going on too, but like tell me about some of the like community driven stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, I had a work trip out in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. Ran around this lake. It was a 4-mile loop and there was a rope swing. And I just decided, all right, it's middle of January. Why don't we just say fuck it and go in the water? And from there, just sparked this idea of getting people together to do something wild in the winter, to embrace the elements, embrace the north. So we do a 4-mile loop our 4-mile run to the Mississippi River. We hop in the ice for 2-3 minutes, and then we run 2 miles back to the saunas at Embrace North. And one of the things I love most about that is it's not like a run group. Most of the people that show up don't consider themselves runners. And so that's the first thing I think is like cool. It's like people who aren't runners are feeling welcomed and like encouraged to sign up. And then when they show up, that 4-mile run to the ice plunge, you get to watch a group of people terrified because they don't know what's about to happen. They haven't experienced what's about to happen. And slowly, as we get there and they get to the hole, like you can see all of the anticipation build in that moment. And then they make the choice to get in.
Yeah.
And the first thing is like, ah. But then like they sit in it, they get out, and this release of like, that was way easier than I expected.
Yeah.
And like their expectations just gone. And they run back and they have a blast and they're showing up the next weekend. And I just loved seeing that cycle of seeing people assume something would be really hard because of how it looks. Then they experience it. And my hope is that they, from that experience, they start to look at other things that may look hard in their life. And they look back on this experience and go, well, I thought that was really hard going into it, but it was way less scary on the other side than I thought.
That's an ice bath experience I can totally get behind. Some people watching might know I've spoken negatively about ice bath stuff in the past because I feel like it's very like influency and like biohacky in a way.
Yeah.
So I like sometimes really don't like all the plastic barrels and stuff like that, and the way that people talk about it. But I love even just the branding of Embrace North, of just like embracing the elements and embracing the suck and like connecting with the place that you live and the people around you and stuff is super, super cool. So I think the way you're implementing it is like the coolest use case for the cold plunge experience I've ever seen. I love it.
But I think just trying to find a way to get people out and do hard things for the sake of them accomplishing that, to me, is important. And so whenever I think about the longer distance stuff that I do, whether it be in training or an event, like how can I get people to come out and participate in a way that's difficult for them? When I think about community, that's where I like to go with it. It's like not trying to get people out to do a run club that's fun. It's no, I want to see what you can do.
It's really cool because lifting, I think, is easier to make a community because like we're just here together, back and forth on the machine, you know. Whereas running by nature is often really, really solitary in a way. So like you see each other at the start, you see each other at the finish, and nothing in between. But like a loop course, being out on the same course together, and timed events, I think that's super cool. I haven't done a backyard style ultra yet, but I really want to. Like the 4 miles an hour for as long as you can go type deal. And you're one of the backyard kings now. You've won 2 of them, right?
Yeah, 2 of them.
I'm curious on your strategy of like, do you try to just go as slow as you can and like drag that 4 miles out across the hour? Or do you get it done a little bit faster to have like intentional downtime and refuel time? Like how do you go about it?
I'm pretty methodical about doing each loop in 52 to 54 minutes and getting 5 to 6 minutes to sit in a chair, change my socks if I have to. My fiance Lucy is making me food every loop. Like it's grilled cheese, it's pancakes and fruit, it's egg hash brown, and avocado burritos. It is spaghetti and meatballs. It is like 5-course meal. It's unreal. So shout out Lucy, because without you, I would not be able to accomplish these things. And then if I'm planning, like I sleep during these races too. So if I'm planning on sleeping during a loop, I'll come back and I'll do the loop in 48 to 50 minutes. And then I'll sleep for 7 minutes and then do the other things that I need to do.
You're able to fall asleep pretty quick Once you get tired enough?
Instantly.
Is that something you had to practice, or when you get there and you're tired enough, it's just like you fall asleep so fast?
I think my drinking days, I had many problems with drinking in high school and college where I just didn't know how to control the limits, or so I learned there were times in college where I could find a closet or find a back alley to sleep in, and I think through that experience I learned that I can sleep pretty much anywhere. I'll get in the chair, I'll put a cloth over my eyes, and then I'll just I mean sleep. I know some people have issues with it in that race, but for me it's never been a huge issue.
Like, any personal goals you have with ultra running? Like, where do you see yourself a couple years down the line with the sport and that kind of thing?
I would say there's probably 3 buckets when I think about my goals in this sport. One has become more recently is like, from the sport side of things, is like, I'd love to win Cocodona 250. I'd love to win the Arrowhead 135. In the last person standing, there's Team USA that competes every year. There's this world classic for the backyard style. So on one weekend, you'll have teams from like 74 different countries compete at the same time at different locations. So like Mexico, we'll have a site in Mexico where the 12 best backyard runners will be. USA has it, and there's like all over the world. It's happening at one time on one weekend, and so there's 6 silver ticket races and then 6 at-large bids. So the best performances of the year, or if you win the silver ticket race, you're automatically in. So goals that are like result specific, those would be some goals that I have at least in the next couple of years.
Yeah. With the backyard ultra, obviously, like the ones that you've won, like you win because everyone else quits.
Yeah.
Could you have kept going, or were you?
Yes. The closer you get to maximizing your potential, that goalpost just moves. Where last year, I felt like I could go longer, but with this race format, once there's one person left, you can't go any farther. And this year, I went 4 hours longer because somebody went that distance with me. And thinking about, like, I still had more left in the tank.
Yeah.
What would that look like? I don't know the answer to that, but I know that it's possible based on how much I felt I had left in the tank upon completing 38 hours.
Yeah.
You know? So like the result bucket, those are some of the goals that I have, but then I look at more of the impact bucket of, I had two really cool opportunities to go back and speak about my Arrowhead experience to Prior Lake High School lacrosse team and the St. Thomas College lacrosse team. And to be able to stand up there and share what I learned to a group of guys where I was trying to figure out life in college didn't go well for me. You know, I bottled up my emotions. I wasn't able to like figure out how I felt, so I drink and I would take it out on the football field. That was my way of coping with life. And I feel like I've had a really good handle on being able to work through my emotional state, work through my mental state, put goals on the calendar and go after that, and to have that experience and then be able to pass that off to a group of guys that are in a position that I once was. That to me is super. I didn't realize how important that was to me until I was standing up there and got to like feel that and hear that later from some guys. And then, you know, that third bucket is like, I would love to be able to like run across America one day and have my wife and 3 kids there with me. Like I want this to be a lifestyle more than a job. And yes, make money from it that supports a family, but create a space and an environment where my kids can see that I'm not doing life on autopilot. What would you say your goals are?
The performance aspect is still there. Like I have goals and like times I want to run and races I want to do and that kind of thing. But the more I do it and the older I get, like I also realize how fleeting a lot of that stuff is. And like, so what, I run X time, like I'm gonna slow down at some point. I'm gonna get older at some point. And so I think putting too much weight and too much value in some of the concrete numbers and stuff like that is setting yourself up to be a little bit disappointed later on.
Yeah.
You know? But I want to have as much fun with it as I can, you know, while I can. Like that, I don't want that to stop me from chasing big dreams and goals and times in the short term. But I want to make sure that the most important things, the things that I put the most value in, are the things that I'm going to be able to carry with me for the greatest amount of time. One, having legitimate fun with it and not getting so caught up in performance that you ever lose the joy you first had and like, you know, your first race or when you first started running and you're like, oh my God, this is so cool. I never want to lose that.
Yeah.
Just seeing what fitness has done for my life, the things that I can do, the way I can feel, the health that I have, the connections I've made, like hanging out with people like you in the gym. There's so many cool things that fitness has brought me that I want other people to experience too. And you don't have to be an elite athlete to experience the majority of the benefits that fitness can offer.
Right.
And I think that, yes, cardio in general, like whether it's running, biking, whatever, like yes, cardio is hard and it sucks and like no one really wants to do it. Like at least that's kind of like the messaging that's out there. But like showing the other side of like, yes, it's hard, but it's so rewarding in so many ways. And just trying to get people to connect and experience that in like whatever way they can. Like you were talking about with Embrace North and like seeing people face their fear of like going on that run, jumping in the cold river, and then them being like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Like maybe other things in life aren't as bad as I thought.
Yeah.
Showing people that with not even just running, but fitness in general. It's the one space where you like get to show up, apply like patience, progressive overload, a methodical approach, the same approach that you need in so many areas of life, but you get to see it work on such a different time scale where it's like you put in the work, stress, rest, growth. Oh, I'm stronger next week. I'm running further next week.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, what if I applied that mindset to my business or my family or whatever? And it's like, no, you're not going to see that same kind of ROI on a week.
Yeah,
but now you've got a taste of like, that's what the process is. That's what it means to be process oriented. And I think so many people are just results oriented, like short-term satisfaction oriented. But to me, fitness is like such a great place to develop the skills and the mindset and stuff that you really need everywhere else in life.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's harder to develop those skills elsewhere where the timeline is bigger.
Yes. 100%.
So I think fitness is just like, it's such a good training grounds for developing all of those things that is going to benefit you everywhere.
I appreciate the fact that you say that and you recognize that, because that's something that even after years of running where I knew those principles to be true, it was so hard for me to apply that over to like actually creating an LLC for my YouTube and like in the running side of things, and then like working on getting sponsors and working on these bigger projects, and the timeline for that just felt so much longer and less, like you could spend a whole day, let's say content-wise, spend a whole day on a video and it just goes nowhere, and it feels much different than coming to the weight room or going out for a run, and like you can kind of see and notice those micro changes more quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's helpful to know that the process works and just to have faith in it, even when you can't see it.
Yeah, it's really hard to trust the process when you've never experienced results before.
Yeah.
And like the gym is the one place where like the results are all but guaranteed. Maybe not the final outcome or like how strong you're going to get or how fast you're going to get, but it's all but guaranteed that like if you show up, you put in the work, you're going to move forward on the path.
Yes.
Dude, thanks for hanging with me today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.